Of course, I knew Todd Rundgren before. Hello, It's Me, which is from the period of the NAS. But I had it on the shelf for at least 20, 30 years. And at some point, this is just a USB stick, and it has the recording of a concert I attended, which I've seen in Amsterdam. It was on the 8th of February in 2010. And he was playing a Wizard, a True Star there. He never did that before, but that year he did. He toured in the States first, and then he did a show in London, and he finished off the whole tour in Amsterdam. So that was his last concert from that tour. And of course, I knew who Todd Rundgren was, but I didn't really have seen him before. So I went to the concert, and he played 3 sets after all. But he started with John and the Johnsons or something like this. So he did really boring blues stuff to begin with. And then there was a break. And then a Wizard, a True Star started. And that was amazing. He came up in an astronaut suit, and he changed clothes at least 7, 8 times. And the band was playing all along. And yeah, it was amazing. The sound was really, really good. His voice is better than on the record, I think. And but that's how I got involved into it. And that's why I bought the LP as well.
This week's request comes from Marcel Vlastuin. And yes, my American accent aside, that's actually how you pronounce it. In Dutch, the V sounds more like an F, and A is more an A sound, and UI is pronounced ow. Dankjewel. Graag gedaan. Marcel teaches particle physics in the Netherlands. Neat. I first met Marcel at Roots Rock Revival, and having him there is always a pleasure. See, I used to work for a Dutch company, so I've spent a lot of time in the Netherlands. And there's something about the friendly but kind of direct and no-nonsense aspects of the typical Dutch personality that I kind of miss having around. Plus, he's just a nice and a smart guy who loves music. Heel gezellig. Marcel recommended A Wizard, a True Star by Todd Rundgren. You do know that's the live version from 2009, right? Yeah, I mean, I figured it out eventually. I had to get the studio version as well. My history with Todd Rundgren's music, well, even before I knew anything about anything in the world, I'd heard Hello, It's Me and I Saw the Light. I mean, every sentient being alive in the mid-70s has heard those by now. And believe it or not, it was only this year that I figured out that he also recorded Bang the Drum All Day. Until this year, I'd assumed it was another one-hit wonder from the 80s, like Pac-Man Fever or White Horse. By Laid Back, you remember that one?
If you wanna ride, don't ride the white horse.
And another one of the albums that really kind of got me into progressive rock when I was in high school was another from my mom's record collection. It was the Utopia Another Live album. Really dug that back in the day. And one last thing I've learned about Todd Rundgren. Based on the fact that his album Something Anything seems to show up on virtually every list of the best albums ever made, I finally listened to that one a few years ago. And aside from I Saw the Light and Hello, It's Me, I hate to say it, but I really wasn't feeling it. Sorry. And from what I've read about A Wizard, a True Star, this is supposed to be the album where he felt he could cut himself loose from traditional songwriting conventions and just be himself. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet.
Maybe something bad, maybe something good.
So I guess it's time to spend some time with the Wizard. I'm going to spin the album, and Marcel, how about you hit us up to what I should be listening for?
Yeah, there are 2 things that are special on this record. For instance, it's a very long record. Yeah, I think it's 28 and 27 minutes on both sides. So it's extremely long. So he had to cut the album really, really thin in the production phase. For that reason, it consists of 2 tracks only. and you cannot put the needle somewhere at the beginning of a new song. Yeah, he said you have to listen to this record from the beginning to the end, and you shouldn't just select songs. It's a whole thing, and that's the first thing I should mention. And the other one is that he said, well, I used all kinds of tricks you shouldn't use as a producer, and he tried them all out, and he's doing things that were forbidden because yeah, with the NAS he produced most of the stuff, and yeah, he continued with his own records, and later on, of course, he produced yeah, many other records, and yeah, he learned it all by himself.
First spin, I'd say this album is dense. There's so much going on. Some of it comes and goes pretty quick, and some of it hangs around a good long while. Some of it's early 70s singer-songwriter stuff bordering on yacht rock. Some of it is experimental prog. Some of it's late 60s soul. And breaking it all apart and attempting to explain what I'm hearing is going to be quite the challenge this week. Because even though the total runtime is just under an hour, there are 19 songs. And one of those is a medley of 4 other songs. So this is going to be another one where I'm not going to be able to talk about every track on the album. It'll just take too long. I'll have to try and give an overall view, but concentrate on the songs that stuck out to me. First song, International Feel. Mostly it's mid-70s harder rock, but there are moments of bigger chords and melodic choices for the voicings, like placing the 3 in the bass, that make this one feel more sophisticated. A catchy one for sure. I think I like this one. Then after a Disney cover is Tick, 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 It Wears Off, which feels a lot like an instrumental version of I Saw the Light, only more involved, right? With key changes and modulations everywhere. Then there's a string of minute-long trippy bits, which progress through a bunch of stuff, right? Guitar features, odd meters, sound effects, lullabies, Moog demos, until we get to Zen Archer, which is a kind of combination second line / sea shanty thing. Well, for the verses anyway, the choruses are freer and looser with more interesting chords and harmonies, with penny whistle, cymbal rolls, plus a sax solo from David Sanborn. But what that does for me is it has the effect of making the return to the verses sound cooler. Just another onion head / da da dolly. I mean, the stops in the verses are the coolest part. Similarly, the 16th note run that they use to bridge the verses are the coolest part of When the Shit Hits the Fan / Sunset Boulevard. Both of those songs are pretty catchy though. Yeah, that's true. Then the side ends with a reprise of International Feel called La File Internationale. And I think it still works here, perhaps even more so, after the 10 songs in between them. Side 2 starts with Sometimes I Don't Know What to Feel. You and me both, Captain. Look, I am admittedly far from an expert on the music of Todd Rundgren, but if there is a Rundgren-sounding piano intro, it's this one. But the song itself is much more Philadelphia soul compared to the hard rock psychedelia and prog on side 1, with a very Al Green sounding chorus. Does Anybody Love You feels almost like 70s bubblegum pop? Well, except for the meter change in the bridge. Then we get to the longest song on the album. Medley, I'm so proud / ooh baby baby / la la means I love you / cool jerk. This is mostly a tasteful and faithful blending of the original arrangements from the Impressions, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, the Delphonics, and the Capitals. Mostly. At least until they get to Cool Jerk, which becomes a hard rock prog workout in 7. Like you do. Hungry for Love is a fun little Fats Domino style New Orleans type piano feature. It's pleasant enough. I don't want to tie you down. Sensitive little 70s Carole King style singer-songwriter piece, right? Certainly feels that way for pretty much the entire song, with Todd Rundgren singing variations of "So happy, I don't want to weigh you down. Oh baby, I don't want to tie you down." And then, well, here's my impression of me hearing the last chorus for the first time. So yeah, it sure seems to me like the entire song was just an excuse to make that one joke. And I can respect that. But it doesn't stop there, because the next song is It My Name? And here's the first line from that song. There is cause and effect. There's a reason I'm so erect. Otherwise, this song is kind of a rocker with some shifting meter in the choruses. Then the album ends with just one victory, which is kind of a blend of all of the elements used throughout the album. The groove and the bass line of Philadelphia Soul, the chords and harmonies of a contemplative 70s singer-songwriter piece, and the energy of harder rock. I think this one is my favorite. Almost a Curtis Mayfield feel, or Bill Withers, something like that. But I know the answer, words become a tool. After my initial listen to A Wizard, A True Star, I don't know how I feel about it yet. The tone and the feel shift so dramatically in places it's hard for me to assess it all. There are some great songs on here for sure, but it's going to be a minute before I can fabricate a cohesive thought about the album as a whole. So I'm off to gather more data. Marcel, help me out. What does this album mean to you? I'll be over here taking notes.
It's just a sweet memory of that concert I saw in Amsterdam. Yeah, if I have to describe one of the most great concerts, that certainly is one of them. It's absolutely in my top 3, and that is the most important thing. And yeah, I didn't listen to all the stuff of Todd Rundgren. He's still doing great things. So if you look up on the internet a YouTube film of a whole concert, he's connecting with the people. It's a nice bloke. And yeah, his voice is so beautiful, and he's a great guitar player as well. So he can do so many things.
I ended up listening to 3 different versions of A Wizard, A True Star this week. The studio version from 1973, the live album from 2009, and the remaster from 2015. Going into this week, I knew that all 3 existed, but I wanted to stick with just the original release. But I ended up looking to the others, hoping it could give me different takes on some of it. It's just that the first half is so dense that it was hard for me to take it all in. So I was hoping that an alternative mix or a live performance might help to bring out some things that I've been missing. And they helped a bit, but it didn't really affect my sense that the first half of the album felt like pouring an entire semester of a college seminar into your head all at once. But things started changing for me as I started doing the research. It turns out that the overwhelming of the senses on side 1, that was a feature, not a bug. Apparently, Todd Rundgren had recently discovered psychedelics and wanted to document the feel of a trip from his own perspective. And somehow he managed to do it without sounding like Jimi Hendrix or the Dead. So there's that. Now I have a context for what I'm hearing. Songs like You Need Your Head or Dogfight Giggle are serving the same sonic function as songs like EXP from Axis Bold as Love or Interstellar Overdrive from Piper at the Gates of Dawn. It's just so unintuitive to get into that headspace when the song right before it sounds like it might have come from Carole King's Tapestry. Right? And that kind of brings me to my next revelation. There seems to be a version of progressive music that incorporates aspects of the 70s singer-songwriter vibe. I mean, of course. Why wouldn't there be? And in retrospect, I guess I saw a version of this kind of thing a couple weeks ago when I looked at Consequences by Lowell Cream and Kevin Godley. Framing it this way, Well, it's making me rethink his previous album. From interviews and reviews I've read, Something Anything is supposed to be a collection of 3-minute pop songs, while A Wizard, a True Star is regarded as his full-bodied plunge into self-indulgence. But in my mind, at least right now, Something Anything feels like snark and kind of smarmy cleverness, where A Wizard, a True Star feels like Todd Rundgren doing all he can to serve the music wherever it takes him. Anyway, my final thoughts. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give Todd Rundgren's A Wizard, a True Star just 1 victory.
It will be alright.
I'll see you next week.